So the MLB trade deadline isn't for a couple more months, Jacqueline, but it is time to start thinking deals as teams decide to be buyers or sellers ahead of July 31st. Important to note, entering the week, almost two-thirds of the league entered their games within 3 games of a playoff spot. So that's why we're bringing the conversation up now with Julian Williams, our national baseball reporter, with some of his buyers and sellers here. So again, always in that think tank, thinking about teams, and you know them well. So we're going to start with a couple of buyers, a couple of first-place teams, and we start with the one in L.A. What are the Dodgers thinking about right now in the moment, you think?
Pitching. Look, they need pitching. I know Ohtani threw his first bullpen the other day, or excuse me, live BP, but that's not enough, right? You don't know if he's going to come back as a starter. They have 14 guys on the IL that are pitchers. 6 of them are starters. So they're going to have to go out there and get pitching. I saw them play the recent weekend against the Mets, and they looked good offensively, but you question the pitching. And I think somebody like Sandy Alcantara from the Marlins could help, remedy a lot of their issues.
Yeah, it's interesting how much they had to navigate that last year already, thinking that they had the better plan this year. But to your point, a chance for them midseason to bolster that bullpen and that starting rotation as well. All right, what about the Yankees? New York also sitting in first place in its division, but what about the Pinstripes?
Look, I think that they have one of the best dominant staffs in baseball. If there's anything that the Yankees do, they pitch, right? They've done that, for the last 10 to 12 years. They're going to pitch. I think that's why they stay in the hunt so fast. So much. But with losing Juan Soto, that's a big bat, and Aaron Judge has to carry a lot of the load. So I would say they need another bat in the lineup, particularly in the middle of the order, because I think that would help them take some of the pressure off Judge, and have a situation like they had Soto last year, and he got them to the World Series. Obviously, Judge didn't have the World Series that he wanted, but if you pair somebody with, and he's not going to be Juan Soto, but if you pair him with somebody that's going to at least be a little bit effective with the power numbers, I think that'll suit the Yankees well.
We have conversation of Judge flirt with 400 this story in this type of season. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep it up. Guys in the back, can we bring up those division records and odds once again for the AL East when we're talking about the Yankees, because I want to focus on the team that's down below, sitting tied for third, which is the Red Sox at 27-31. So, Julian, what does Boston have to do, or what do you think they're going to do? Are they going to buy or sell, you think?
I think it's ultimately going to be a sell. Look, I covered this team for 6 years, and I think it's a club that right now, this early into the season, this is the worst I've ever seen them. They have a lot of guys playing out of position. I know they rely on Christian Campbell and Marcelo Meyer, but you can't rely on those young guys to get you through a season. Now, Alex Bregman being out for a long while, that's going to cost them a bit. So I think they have a couple of names that they can come up with as sellers. Jarren Duran is one guy I think about. He was an all-star last year. The Red Sox thought about trading him, in fact, at the trade deadline last year, because they felt like at some point he reached his peak. He's not going to have that season he had again. Ceddanne Rafaela, that's another guy. Some people say he's the best center fielder in all of baseball. He struggles a bit with the bat, but when it comes to the glove, he can do that. And then we got Aroldis Chapman. Aroldis Chapman is having one of his best seasons. He's throwing 103 miles per hour. I don't know how that's going to serve the Red Sox, because they can't seem to get through a game without being behind. So it's better that they try to get something else for him, potentially another bat, hopefully another bullpen arm. We'll see, but I think the Red Sox right now are just a mess.
Okay. Don't tell that to our guy, Will Middlebrooks, by the way, who has to cover that team, of course, for us here at CBS Sports. And then let's get to the Rangers, because there were a lot of people entering the season trying to buy relatively low on this team that said, hey, they're going to get back on track. Things are going to go well again. It hasn't really happened out that way, right, Julian? What has gone wrong there in Texas, and what do you think they're going to be doing near the deadline?
Look, they're trying to do anything possible to get Marcus Semien going, and it just hasn't happened. I don't know if his age, I don't know what it is. Marcus is the guy that posts, and we've even moved him down to the 9 hole. And I think that's probably the first time in years that he's hitting that position. I think they got to get more production from their guys, and I just don't see it happening. This team's turned a little bit stale, even going into last year. They were a team that people expected. They're just 2 years off from winning the World Series, and now they just don't seem that they can get it going. So Marcus Semien, look, that's a guy that perhaps he needs a new place he can go. I know he has 2 years left on his contract, or 3, but the Rangers will have to take on a huge load of that, and maybe perhaps Nathan Eovaldi. He's a playoff pitcher. He knows how to get outs. He knows how to get the job done. So the Rangers have been a total disappointment this year, and I just can't see them going anywhere in that division.
All right, Julian Williams giving us the lowdown on what we could potentially see the trade deadline in Major League Baseball. Never too early to start thinking about that. And as we check the latest odds to win the World Series, the Dodgers continue to be a heavy betting favorite at plus 240. We mentioned the Yankees. They're right behind at plus 550. I don't see my Giants anywhere there, but the Padres coming in hot at 25.
Braves 16-1.